It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 5. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What's going on? Glad to be here.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, welcome back to you.
What's up, dude? How are you today? This morning, as we record this, we are early in the morning.
Oh, it is early. It is early. I'm doing pretty good. Got my sweatshirt on because it's cold in the house. You know, we don't put the heat on here until, you know, there's frost growing on my nose. So that's an old school post-depression syndrome that ran rampant through our family. So I guess we're adhering to that tradition of freezing yourself.
Love it, dude. Hoodie weather. Got my hoodies out. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, this was the time of the year when I pulled out the leather jackets, you know, as a kid. So you started wearing your leather jacket all the time. Yep. You know, that extra 55-pound leather jacket that we all had. I think that's why we were so thin. We'd walked around. We had no car, so we walked everywhere with a 50-pound leather jacket on our backs with, you know, the chain wallets and everything. We were pretty weighed down, I think. So, you know what I'm talking about.
And you know, the other thing I like about hoodies is, you know, you and I had talked off the air a little bit ago about, you know, our eating habits as of late. And I'm like, oh, I'm putting a hoodie on today.
Yeah, I know.
I feel a little more roundish than I normally do.
Yeah, today's a big sweatshirt day. Yep.
I know. Hoodie will hide all this.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, I know that sometimes people's eating habits will change as the weather gets colder, right? Yeah. It's kind of like an insulin thing, but it's not that, even though I can't stand the cold, but it hasn't been that, you know, because you get those winter blues, so to speak. It's not even winter yet.
Yeah.
It's just been a mindset, like, and we've talked about this off the air, and I sure it was going to be pieces of content throughout the show, but we've noticed such a massive change in the scene and in how the industry is going, both on the higher levels, which people will say, well, it doesn't really affect you directly, and it doesn't immediately, but there is the trickle-down effect that sooner or later, if it's a trend in the industry, it starts happening even on the regional and local levels. And sometimes what happens is it permeates into something completely different, and the local bands are usually feeling the brunt of it. By that time, somebody figured out, how do we capitalize on this? And then who pays? Kind of like a taxpayer setup. And I know that's been kind of wearing on me because, like, as I talked about in the first show, it's like the model has to change. Like, we can't adhere to certain things. Like, for some of us, like, if I was still, and to some degree I am, and I was for a long period of time, like, I was still running the same models we did in the 80s. And that worked part of the 90s, but then it all fell apart. But then when I kind of got back into things, I found that, hey, this model's not working, like, at all. Like, I mean, I got to, you know, and it's changed yet again.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's affecting me, and I guess maybe I'm eating a little bit more because of it. I mean, I'm not going nuts, believe me. For what I'm used to doing, I'm kind of eating just a little bit more. It's probably making it harder to get into my stage pants, but I got to get my act together at some point. But.
Yeah, you know, and we're getting into the holiday season, right? And that's when all the really kind of good food.
I know. Well, I still have Halloween cookies laying around. Like, we made a bunch of cutout Halloween cookies, and using our Christmas recipe, the Christmas cookie recipe. But then we added the cocoa powder, so we made them, you know, they're dark. But I got plenty of bats and owls and witches and pumpkins laying around. By the time Christmas comes, I've already packed on my 8 pounds before we start the baking. So it's crazy already. But yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I feel like I'm in a trivial position about what that model, what the goal is now. Because yes, I guess there are still some free stuff that bands and artists can do, and I try to take advantage of them, but they don't have the same bang for them. And everything now, and I've talked to some people in the industry, they're talking that everything's pay now. Everything. You want shelf space, even in the darkest of areas, you got to pay for it. Nobody. You're getting reviewers who want to be paid for bad reviews. And by bad reviews, I mean not necessarily like their grammar's off. I'm talking about they're just kind of crushing your release, but they want you to pay for it. Like, well, first of all, why would I pay for a review that's horrible? That's bad PR, right?
Right.
And then why would I pay for a review that you were sent the album for free or you downloaded it for free somewhere? Like, why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. I'm losing money. Listen, I know there's a thing out there where, you put it all out there, right? No press is bad press. Well, I guess it depends, right? Unfortunately, it never really helped Michael Jackson, so take that whole story.
True.
You're getting interviewers want to be paid, reviewers want to be paid. I am actually even getting feedback from people that just repost your press release on their site. It's just a repost. They're not writing anything. They're not doing. They're just taking the press release.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. They want to be paid for. They want to be paid for that as well. Listen, I understand everybody wants to get paid. I do understand that, but there is a certain amount of like give and take, because those sites are supposed to technically be surviving by sponsorships, all the ads and the banners and stuff like that.
Right.
If you call it a fanzine of some sorts, then that's what it is. It shouldn't be that you're charging these bands for, because I'm pretty sure you're not contacting Metallica and saying, hey, I need you guys to just PayPal me something. $5 goes a long way. Well, man, let me tell you something. If you got a website and a PayPal account, I don't think you need the $5. That's the way I look at it. Now, if you're on the street corner and you're putting poster boards up of handwritten copies of my press release, then I can afford to give you $5. You know what I mean? Don't ask me for $25 because you're having a tough time because you're out of work, but you want to do this to support the scene. But then I see posts that you're at a show enjoying some kind of alcoholic beverage with all the bands. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden your GoFundMe page comes up because you need to buy birthday presents for your children, but you're at a spa for 3 days or whatever. I mean, everybody's got their story. I get it, and I'm not judging per se, but that's kind of where it's at. And I guess with my thinking, I'm not trying to change the destination. And we're talking about it. Like even playing out is the scene is changing, and they're doing crazy things, cutting bands short, not caring about sound, booking bands that shouldn't be on the same bill. I mean, I guess they've always done that, but overbooking, underbooking.
I think, when it comes to booking bands of a different genre, but kind of staying in the same mix, you know what I mean? Like, if it's all metal, it's metal. I don't care about that as much, but what we're missing is the support of the scene. Back in the day, like even with you guys too, back then we could play a venue with different bands and there was people and they didn't care, and they enjoyed the music, they enjoyed the bands that were playing no matter what you're playing. Nowadays, like you can't even get people to stick around for another band. That's the issue with that. It's the scene's even changing on the concert goer. People have money issues and families and stuff like that, and I totally understand it. But like me and a friend were talking pretty recently, and we were saying the scene has changed so much, and the people that are responsible for the change of the scene are the people that are in the scene complaining about the change of the scene. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these bands are for themselves and they don't care about the other bands, and people come and see their friends and they leave, and there's no, if you don't like somebody's band, then that I totally understand, but still try. Like, you're already out, like stick around and watch the whole show. And I never understood that whole theory of going to see a band, checking out one band and leaving. Never understood it. I don't know if I've ever left a show. If I go to a show, I'm there the entire time. I don't think I've ever left a show. If I'm there, I'm out. I'm there. Like, it doesn't matter. If I went to see my friend's band and my friend's band opened, most of the time I'm probably staying for the whole show. To me, like, it's how I feel about it. And the people that complain about the scene are the people that damage the scene. Are the same people. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, bands are at fault for this too. I mean, have there been times that I've had
100%.
to leave the show before the end? Yeah, I mean, but I'll tell
Well,
you,
yeah,
and
like,
things happen. I mean, after
Of course.
after
there is great.
30-some years of doing this, life gets in the way, and you have to do some things. I mean,
Yes,
there's been
yes.
shows, like when we're actually on the road, and we basically have to go after, a certain period of time. But we've already worked that out. We've let the venue know. We've talked to the other bands. Listen, we're on the road. We have a 9-hour drive. We're trying to get ahead
Right,
of the time.
right,
Whatever.
right.
It's not like we try to duck out.
Right.
And I've seen bands do that. They play,
Yeah.
and they just disappear.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's terrible. It really is. I mean, like, if you're there, like you said, you should be supporting. That's how it goes. And, years ago, we would share audiences. Audiences, I think, and I hate to say this, like, it's not pointing the fingers because we've talked about this. Artists are tough. Bands are tough. They sometimes make it harder on themselves. They make it harder on the whole situation because ego gets in the way. Everybody has this list of demands. It's like, okay, we're not curing cancer or building rockets to go in outer space, but we are trying to give people an escape for a couple hours by sharing our passion, what we do, and we want to put it in the best light. And some bands wind up getting up there, including my own band, because sometimes we're catching the flack from another band. And like I said, I recently played, a couple months now ago, a show, and one guitar player gave me crap about my cabinet. I said to him, I go, what do you want me to do, Bo? I go, bring your own cabinet next time. I don't know what to tell you. Works for me.
Yeah.
If you were that concerned that they may not have what you were looking for or need to run your special super secret head, then you should have had your cabinet in your car and just said, hey, you know what? No worries. Got my stuff.
Yeah.
Because actually for that show, I said to the venue, no worries, man. We'll have our full complement. I'm not worried about anything. I enjoy sharing backline because it makes things a whole heck of a lot easier, especially if someone offers. I'm also not weary of bringing my own stuff. I'm not that lazy. Yeah. I'll bring my own stuff. And we've talked about this before. We know what we need. There's no more, no less, and it's a perfect fit. So that's why it's never a problem. And we're usually set up in minutes. That's how easy the setup is. But there's this other attitude that you're talking about that's going on even past that.
Yeah, like you said, I totally understand. And even though I'm a singer, I totally understand. I get the theory of feeling loading up my cabs and it's just easier. I get it. But, and this could just be the way we were raised, right? Because I know your mom was the same way as my mom. Always be prepared. If it's July, make sure there's a sweatshirt in your car because you never know. And it's true. It's true. No matter where I go, I always have a pack of aspirin, a blanket in the car. Like, just, as dumb as it is, you never know. My new drummer in Seeds had a gig, same thing. He has this humongous, gorgeous kit. And he's like, should I bring this? I bring that? Yeah, man, put it in your car. You may not use it. The worst thing that could happen is you don't use it. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
You know what I mean?
You brought up a good point. I don't think that it was what you were saying, but there's a point that the people that are complaining the most about the scene are the ones that are actually damaging it. Now, somebody could say, well, you guys are complaining a lot about the scene. What are you doing about it? I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not doing anything about it. I feel to some degree that this show does try to shed some light because we're giving our experiences. And we're also demonstrating that we make mistakes as well. I mean, like if you've been a listener of the show, from me, you hear all the stupid things that I wind up doing or have done. That's the whole point. Like I'm trying to learn from them.
That's right. That's why we do the show.
That's why we do the show. But a lot of it is the audience themselves. Their expectation has completely changed. And I'm not exactly sure why that expectation change. I'm going to venture to say, as an old guy, the internet's the reason. And maybe it is, because at one time, when the internet first started to really come about, like everything was free. Nobody thought about paying for anything. I mean, there was music, you were downloading movies, there was books for free, like tons of books. You could just get them. People were scanning them in, and because nobody realized that there was a copyright issue. I'm sure somebody said it at one point, but then they said, well, what are they going to do? It's the internet. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then,
right.
You know, I mean, for the longest time, there was no tax on the internet, no sales tax of any sorts. And the finger came down on that. Once they figured out how they could work that and keep everybody in check, boom. Anyway. But I really do think that sometimes some of the issue does lie in the audience's hand. Like you said, they don't stay for all the bands, so the bands don't get supported, which then in turn makes them look less than at the venue.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't know them. Okay. Well, listen, man. You know that old saying that goes around on Facebook? Your favorite band today was once an unknown band.
That's right. That's right,
and
dude.
So you
100%.
And the thing is it may not be the band. It may be somebody in that band.
Yeah.
And everybody goes today like, oh, my God, I wish I was at that first Kiss show at the whatever hotel or, you know, the Regency or the Hyatt or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You know, them first couple shows. And everybody goes, oh, my God, what were those people thinking? And, you know, and the other thing, if you had $200, who would you go see? And they throw up like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, like, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Queen, like all these bands that aren't around anymore. Well, I guess they are in tribute for him, and you save a lot less money. You actually take the $200, you pay $35, maybe $55 now, and then you have a night out. You get some food and stuff. Anyway, everybody wants that, but they don't consider that now. A lot of people, most people don't consider that now, that the bands of today could be the bands of tomorrow, the big bands of tomorrow. The way the industry's set up, that's probably not the case anymore, but it's hopeful. You just never know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And in our scene, in being hard rock and heavy metal, the one thing that we all strive to do is we try to one-up each other. I saw so-and-so when. You know how many times I've thrown in my wife's face that I saw Guns N' Roses at the Troc when there was like 40 people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I do it all the time.
I seen them at the Tower Theater. They were so drunk. This was like in that first year. They were so hammered that they had to stop the show multiple times.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, we do it. We all do it to each other. We go, oh, yeah? Well, I saw so-and-so. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, we all do it. And the coolest thing to go is, hey, man, I saw that band when. Because you never know who that band's going to be.
I remember my brother saying, oh, I seen Rat when they came to the Empire. I'm like, whoa.
Right.
Are you
exactly.
kidding? You know what I mean? That's like, oh, my God. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
man.
So you're right. You never know. And that's
you never know.
And people just put that, I don't know, they miss that. And that's what I think the audience participation that we had like in the 70s and 80s, even in the early 90s, is way different than it is today. And a lot of bands would talk about like, hey, they would share audiences, and audiences would, you know, I realize again in the hard rock and heavy metal era, there were a lot of bands linked together. They worked together, they toured together, played together. They were all cut from the same cloth. Then you would share audiences. Now, bands are, as much as we are diverse, I guess we're still kind of the same too, but everybody's having pockets. Like, it's just like niche like really smaller pockets because of the oversaturation. And it's a mixture, but it's a hard thing. And I do think that if the industry is going to change, and it's supposed to change for the better, the change has to happen from the artist first, not the other way around. Not the people that are calling the shots, the money and all that, because they're going to just do what's best for them, not best for the artist. The artist has to take a stand and go, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. And you have to be willing to go, okay, I'm not getting that gig then. Or have the person say, no, you're not going to have this gig. But no, that's the problem with us artists. The ego is driving a lot of us. We've got to get up on stage, have to have people clapping, pointing at us, saying, hey, you're the best, you're so hot, oh my God, I'm on fire. You know what I mean? I know that's how you are. You love that stuff. You love that stuff.
Well, I mean, listen, man. I mean, let's be honest. Who doesn't, right? I mean, like, we all have dreams of, big stardom. I mean, who doesn't? I mean,
no, I get it. That's part of the reason we get into this. I mean, it really is.
But sure.
If you've been doing it I'm a firm believer here. If you're doing it for 30-some years, you haven't done it for the money. There's always the hope, the dream. There is something about having your music out there and people responding to the music, not just you.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, man, I'm not really that savvy on stage. I'm not that guy. My singer, he's all over the place. He connects with the people. Me, nah, not so much, man. My focus has always been the music. Like I said, I'm an introvert. I do enjoy playing live. A lot of years I didn't. because it was uncomfortable for me, as well as the whole thing that went along with it. I've gotten over that, but I also put myself into the music so I can get through it. So I enjoy it more, and I really do. And I enjoy the whole music aspect of it. Maybe I'm an outlier, or maybe I'm just a liar. It's possible. I could be both at the same time. So I try to do my best to help the scene, and that doesn't mean that I'm at every show, because I can't be. That's impossible.
Right.
Yeah. But
yeah.
when I am there, I try to function as a positive entity, and I also try to do whatever I can to stay positive, say, in social media, because that's our platform, right, for advertising, for marketing, for communicating most of the time now, rather than try to drag people down like an anchor and just point fingers. Because if the problem's happening, you got to start with yourself first. Got to start with yourself first, Christopher. You have
100%.
to.
No, I agree.
It's Russ the Boss.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
Well, that's a huge intro, probably our longest ever in 6 seasons before even getting to the topic. So let's get into the topic for this show, and that is working harder, working smarter. Working harder, working smarter. Chris, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? How can we achieve that as artists?
For me, working hard, working smart is, on a personal level, it's kind of understanding that things have changed in the industry and how to kind of roll with the punches. You know, I am an older guy. I like the old school stuff. I like the old school sound. I like the going into the studio and I don't like going to the studio, but I like going to the studio and just going in and banging it out, man, one guy at a time, and you build the song, and like I like all that. But I've realized as I've gotten older and being surrounded by, you know, super talented musicians in my life, I've had that pleasure. Recording, and I'm just talking about recording at the moment. Recording sometimes involves click tracks and BPMs and not just going in there and just hammering it out. Like it's you just got to sometimes roll with the changes, and those rolling with the changes sometimes end up being smarter. You're still working hard, but you're also working smarter because you're going with the time. It does make things easier. It also makes things easier where we're in a day and age, and we have the technology that you don't need. Well, I'm going to say it. You don't need all your guys in the band in the studio. You could program stuff. You can hire guys out to do the stuff. Like back in our day, it was the band went in, you know, to record. Nowadays, especially in my genre of music, the death metal community, you know, you're programming drums, you're hiring guys from other bands to come in and do it. And the band doesn't have to be in the studio to record a full record. It could be one guy and all hired musicians. And so that's what I think of when working smarter. And that's just on the recording end of it. You know, working smarter is, you know, if you were touring and traveling, you know, taking care of yourself so you're not hurting yourself. You know, we talked about it before where, you know, Mr. Steven Tyler, you know, he blew his voice out. You know, they had to cancel the whole tour. You know, I don't know the whole thing. Did he sing too hard one night? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, did he hit it? I'm not really sure how that went down. I mean, listen, it could be a complete, you know, BS story. I have no idea. Did he oversing? Why did he oversing? Was the stuff too loud in his monitor? Or, you know, a guy like Steven Tyler that blows out his voice, it's interesting to me because he's been singing for so long. How did he get here? Like, what caused him to do it? Was he working smarter or was he just working hard? I don't know. Another aspect of working smarter is my band just got a new drummer not very, very long ago, a few weeks. And he plays things in a way and differently that has now caused us to play better. And I don't sing as loud and as harsh as I used to. I'm not over exerting myself singing because of his playing style. He's brought out the best in us in terms of how the riffs come out and hearing every note. And it's really kind of hard to explain. Anybody who listens to this podcast that's in a band, maybe you understand it, but sometimes when you bring in a new guy, it changes the way everybody plays and sings. I have never had that experience. But in this experience, for whatever reason, I'm in a position where I'm not over singing. And I don't mean lyrically or in the song. I mean, I'm not pushing my voice to the limits. That's crazy to me. But to me, it's working smarter because now I am not overexerting myself when we do play live. I'm not killing my voice. I could put a little more into my show. Not that I do much. Like, it's not like I'm, jumping David Lee Roth kicks and spinning guitars. Like, I'm not doing that. But I could put a little more stage effort into the show. For me, when I think of working smarter, it's rolling with the punches. Just going along with the changes that we are going through when it comes to recording, when it comes to traveling. We talked about, not traveling. If you're touring, try to tour as least as you can. I've played with many bands, many big name bands that don't even tour with equipment. They use the supporting act. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand it is expensive to tour. So to them, they're touring smarter. To me, working smarter is just going with the changes, realizing that not everything is the same, not fighting that change, kind of just accepting it and moving on. Because we could always sit here and say, oh, I remember back in the day it was better. Well, maybe not. You know what I mean? Maybe these ways of recording records and the way we're doing things now, maybe the old way isn't as better. It's cool to look back on and laugh about, joke about, but there's a lot of bands now that are changing the way they do things because they want to work smarter. Maybe they down tune for the singer. With recently, I'm going to date myself here, but with Kix kind of saying goodbye, and their singer Steve his thing was, listen, I can feel myself not doing it anymore, and I don't want to change what we do, so it was time to go. I just heard a recent interview with Tesla, and they were kind of saying the same thing. They tuned down to match Jeff Keith, right? To match his voice, and I can attest. I saw them recently. I'm not a huge Tesla person. My wife is, but we did go see them live, and they were really, really good. And even with those guys, like even working smarter, I think about all these Vegas residencies. And, I didn't understand the Vegas residencies until, Chris Angel I feel like Chris Angel was like kind of one of the first ones to really kind of, delve deep into these Vegas residencies. And his theory was, and I heard him in an interview one time, and he said his theory is, it's awesome because I stay at the Luxor. That's where his show originally was. I don't know if it's still there. I stay at the Luxor. I get up, I have breakfast, I work out, have lunch, go downstairs to the venue. And I'm like, wow, like that makes complete sense to me. You got all these big name acts, and, a lot of guys from our era now, the hard rock, heavy metal, they're all doing these short Vegas residencies, and it makes perfect sense. Their theory is, I don't want to tour, it's too hard, but if people want to come see me, you tour to see me. I don't have to travel. I could stay, what Tesla stay, they did like a month or two, or a couple shows. They played, I think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then they were off the rest of the week. And they probably made great money because they're at a casino, and casinos will pay anything. It's smart, man. It is smart for these legacy acts, and because they're staying in one place. And if you want to see them, you go to Vegas to see them. And I think it's such a great idea. To me, that's what I think of when I think of work hard, work smarter. You're still working hard, but now maybe you're just you're not putting yourself through as much as maybe we did back in the day.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
So when I think of, working harder, working smarter, first thing that comes to mind is what Apollo Creed said in Rocky, be a thinker, not a stinker. And basically, right. It's like, I look at it as like, you got to think through these things. Like, just jumping into something may be more work than you realized, expected, were prepared for. And it may have more issues tagging along than you want to even deal with. Difficulty does not mean impossibility, right? Difficulty just means there's going to be some challenges. So you may have to work a little harder, okay?
Right.
And part of working harder is thinking through it. It's using not just the body, but it's using your mind as well. So then your spirit is not taxed in the long run. So think through it. Be smarter about it. Have a plan. Put a plan in action. It's revolutionary. It's simple thinking, but it makes a world of difference. And my band has been fortunate enough that we've been overseas multiple times. You can't just, this is from my experience, my opinion, but you can't just do it by the seat of your pants. If you had infinite amounts of money and handlers that were taking care of you, so you didn't even have to think of anything, well, maybe you can do it by the seat of your pants. But for most of us indie in the trench bands, we don't have that. We're our own handler. If you have a plan, you have everything worked out as best you can. Of course, there's Murphy's Law in this business, but you have some point of reference, you find that things go a lot smoother. You really do. You know, you want to do a PR campaign. Well, there's ways around it. There's things that you could do, people that you can get involved with. One of the easiest things that bands can do to working smarter so that everybody can work better, because when people hear work, I'll get to it, but when people hear the term working harder, they're thinking labor intensive. Yeah, that may be true. That maybe means you may have to sacrifice. You got to put in a little bit more time. You got to go the extra mile. Maybe you have to do more yourself. I mean, listen, that's the name of the game here, right? That's with anything.
Yeah.
You want to get ahead in life, what are you going to do? Just sit there and wait? You're going to wait for the knock to come? Because opportunity doesn't come knocking if you're just sitting there. Opportunity knocks when you're out there doing.
Right.
Because you increase your chances of meeting that somebody, connecting with that band, doing this, doing that. Last season you said it. If you weren't at that show, even though it wasn't the greatest show, you wouldn't have made a connection with this other band, wouldn't have made a connection with that venue to get you another gig later on down the road. Or you met this person, you met that. I met some very influential people that has helped this band that we made part of, say, the extended team at a show. Not expecting it, but if I wasn't at that show, if I didn't put the time and effort in to get to that show, the extra benefits that I received, that the band received, that the music in turn receives, would have never happened. And that's opportunity knocking. What do they say? Luck is, it's opportunity and preparation or something like that. I can't remember it. You can see how much it means to me. But, you know what I mean? But the idea is that you've already put the time in. You put the effort. You put the work in because you're doing it smarter. And now those opportunities are doing. I've talked about this before. Every band wants to get to that stage where you're being called for a show, a bigger show. I'm not talking about just like local shows. I'm talking about, you know, to be the opener for a national or something. I've been at that point multiple times, and it's a fantastic feeling because you put the time and effort in before, because you did it as smart as you can. Do you make mistakes? Yeah, listen, man, who doesn't? But you did it in the best way that you possibly can. And that's being smarter about what you do so that the hard work that you do, it pays off even more. And it's not just a one and done thing. So many times people do a show, Chris, you know this, you've seen it, you've talked to me about it. Bands will go up there, it's a one and done thing, and that's it. Because they're not thinking long term. And a lot of bands don't, and I get it. I understand why they don't, because it's such a fleeting type of thing that we do, right? Bands come and go, artists come and go, guys try it out and they go, I don't want to do this. I get that. Venues nowadays, venues come and go. How many venues are gone? Like, how many venues have you played that you played in 2019 and 2018? Most of them are gone. I've had to start new venues, new places. There are a few that made it through. But for the most part, I would say most of them are gone. Even ones that you didn't think would disappear.
Yeah.
So you never know. So people get that attitude. What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Well, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, that's the wave. That's the ripple effect, the trickle-down effect that starts happening. You get one band and artist that says, what difference does it make? The next band, what difference does it make? Now you got two bands. And from that, then their audience gets the same feeling. What difference does it make? What difference does it make? I think that working smarter is having that plan. But let me go back to what I was saying till I digressed into this whole other thing. One of the easiest things that bands can do to work smarter is to delegate things among the band to do, rather than one person doing everything, because burnout, resentment happens, you start missing the mark, mistakes can happen. Even with the best intent, mistakes can happen because you got so much on your plate. If you can delegate some things to the members, now listen, when you've talked about it before, there's always members that are not up to the same tasks as other members. Some people are there to fill that space. They're there for the right reasons. That may not be their forte. I get it,
Yeah.
right? Not everybody's the leader. And there shouldn't be 15 leaders. There should be one. And then everybody supports that because the leader is not for themselves. It should be for the goal of the band, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like what our elected officials are supposed to be. You notice how I every so often slip in some kind of political comment in our musical thing? And then I just move along, kind of like dropping the mic and going off. It really does help. Now, listen, I know firsthand. One, I was involved in a couple bands years and years ago where one person held the reins so tight that you couldn't get anything done. And it was so difficult. It was so difficult. Your opinion wasn't viewed. There was constant contention, resentment buildup, anger. And when explosions happened, it was like World War III. And nothing ever came from it. It just kind of repeated the cycle. Unfortunately, I got into that same thing, and I wasn't doing it because I was trying to control everybody. It's just that I just wanted to do it. I'm going to do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. I got it. I'll take care of it. Boom, 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 boom. To the point where I was just kind of burning at both ends. Every which way you could think of, I was just running out of steam. Over the years, I've started to understand that even if I could do it on myself, why would I want to do it on myself? It's a team effort. Other people have fantastic ideas as well. Not all my ideas are great.
Yeah.
Believe me, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's been such a benefit. But that's also opened up a better thing that they feel even more comfortable now, that they can just start changing stuff and go, listen, this works. And I'm like, yeah, you got it. If it works better for you, just do it. That's working smarter. Right? Instead of like lingering, no, it's got to be this chord change.
It's got to be this,
You know what I mean? Oh, it's got to be this word. Can I change 2 words? And people go nuts. Because I've been in the studio and someone goes, hey, do you mind if I maybe just change the line here? Oh, and then, man, somebody goes like that to me. I go, is it going to be easier for you to sing? Like you're going to really hit? Yeah. I go, then do it. Just do it.
Right. I say it all the time. Anything I write, any lyrics I write, I am not married. Even if one of my guys comes up with the riff, and the song gets done after some time, whatever, and they go, hey, Chris, do you have any lyrics for it? And I go, I do. And they go, well, I was kind of thinking, I'm not married to anything. Whatever is best for the song doesn't matter to me. We need to change words. That's fine. You know, me and the guys in Seeds, the 3 of us are the main songwriter. Well, lyric, you know, the 3 of us kind of share the lyric thing. If we need to make lines easier, change lines, I have anything I write, I am not married to. It does not matter to me. I just want it to be easier. I want it to sound the best it can. And if someone else has a better idea, then rock on. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
Absolutely. My band has gone through some member changes over the years, right? That's been no secret. And I tell everybody the same thing. Listen, right now, just learn the songs as is. Bare bones. Let's get through the songs. Let's get through the set so you feel comfortable so we can keep moving forward. As soon as you start feeling, oh, I got this, add your own thing.
Yep.
So,
we recently said the same thing to our new drummer. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And listen, like you had talked about early on where like you get a new member and it changes things up. I've experienced that. And it's actually, at first it's daunting because you're like, oh my God, what's happening here? But then it's exhilarating because it's like, I'm challenged to do different things. I'm looking at things differently. Other aspects of the song are now coming further into the light that didn't get the chance. I do recall that when we made a drummer switch a number of years ago, Frankie was able to get more melodic, more musicality into the songs. And it was because he wasn't competing with the drummer anymore, who was doing way too much.
Right.
For his own sake. Look at me back here. I'm still doing something. Well, that's not... Listen, in my opinion, when you got a band and you have a front man, a singer, your job is to back that person up. Right? Unfortunately, singers get a lot of attention. Hey, that's the way it is, man. If you don't like it, then be a singer. I'm not interested in being a singer. But I get it. But my job is to make the music sound good so the singer sounds good. Because you can have a great band. As soon as that singer comes in, they don't sound good or they're not comfortable, it's the worst thing in the world. It trashes everything. So, you know, what's best for the song is sometimes working smarter. Listen, if you're a solo artist, you can do whatever you want. And don't tell me you don't change lyrics. Because you do. You get into the studio and you realize, you know what? That ain't working. Oh, I don't have to ask anybody. So you're changing lyrics. And sometimes you're forced to because that line just isn't working. That chord progression isn't working. Timing has changed. Something is off. Right? So then why don't you take that perspective when you're in a band? It's not one and done. what I say goes. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I guess for some, it works for Dave Mustaine. I get it. But that's you're talking something completely different. That's not Indie in the Trenchman.
Right. And you know that going into, right? Like, I mean, you know, if you're going into a big band like that, you already know who runs that show. And if you're okay with it, then rock on.
Yeah, listen, if you're a hired gun, if you're brought on, hey, you're being hired as a player, this is what you do.
That's right.
You've been brought in as an employee. Well, that's a different story. Different story, but for a lot of Indie in the Trench bands, these guys aren't running with contracts. Everybody's putting their best foot forward, I hope, and they're doing it for nothing. It's a passion. It's a drive. They love to do this with the hopes of, hey, something may happen. So to make it work for as long as it can, listen, and you know, everything doesn't work out all the time, right? Things do fall apart. People change, whatever. It's all that. Some bands, they go in with the best and it ain't working. You know what I mean? Okay, and people move on, or that it falls apart. But if you go in with the right mindset, and it's an open mindset, which artists are supposed to have, right? We're not supposed to have narrow mindsets. It's supposed to be an open type of thing. You'll find that more opportunity starts to happen. People are more inclined to get on board and bring other people on board with them, right?
Yep.
You can't have a party if you're not inviting anybody. A party by yourself is basically dancing with yourself there, Billy. And you know what that means. You never have to leave the house. There are specifics. Hey, do this instead of that. Do this instead of that. But that doesn't necessarily going to work for everybody. So instead of us saying, hey, when you have this, you should do this. And when you have this, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
95% of everything that we do is mindset. We make or break it through the intention that we have. Do you remember that episode from last season? If not, check it out at www.thecosmicvoice.com. It's a quick plug. That I'll keep in. What do you think, buddy? You got anything else you want to add?
I think the only thing I want to add, because like you said, some of the topics that we do have a lot of gray areas, right? I mean, everything does. A lot of life has gray areas. But I think
you got a lot of gray areas.
I do have a lot of gray areas. It's okay to work smart. You're not lowering yourself. It is okay to work smart. It just is. And because this industry changes so much and so fast, sometimes you have to work smart just to stay in touch with everything. And that is okay. So I will end with this, Mr. Michaels. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
There you have it. Listen, Chris brings up a fantastic point. You're not selling out. You're not being wimps about it. Being smarter is operating this, like we've said from episode 1, as a business. People think business is just rigid. It's one-track thinking. No, it's not. It's flexibility. It's being able to adapt to the situation and to the times. Many businesses survived during COVID, during the pandemic, because they really got creative and they were flexible about what happened. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Anything worth doing is not a give me. The ones that may have been rigid, maybe they fell to the wayside. Not everybody, so don't quote me on that. Good people lost out, unfortunately. But it's the same thing. It's about a mindset. It's a mindset. So if you can do it, you can work harder by working smarter. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse, you'll never know what you'll find. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmic Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmicvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmic Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.